Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bogey Golf Podcast, proudly supported by AIG. AIG are proud partners of Golf Ireland and have been for over 25 years. Golf Ireland members can get an additional discount on their car and home insurance when you go and visit aig.ie. On the podcast this week, I am joined by Alex Maguire, who has recently turned professional just over 12 months ago now. And we have a conversation all around what his first year has been like as a professional golfer, how it differed to his amateur career, as well as his journey from getting into the golf at the age of 11 to playing in the Open Championship and now playing for his livelihood. This is a great conversation with Alex, so please enjoy.
You know, that's still the best moment in my amateur career. The 1 live spot is absolutely great, but it's a small chance. But the 2 to 10 spot for the international series is...
Yeah, that's massive.
That's pretty much what I'm going for, because as my golf is a business, I have to give my business the best chance to succeed.
Alex Maguire, how are you? Thanks for coming in.
No bother. Nice to be here. Yeah, all good.
So what are you up to at the moment? It's mid-November now. Season, it's definitely not golf weather in Ireland.
No.
What are you up to at the moment?
A lot of practice, a lot of playing. So the weather wasn't good now, but the last sort of 3 weeks has been quite mild.
Yeah.
Going out to Bogey in the morning, practicing, playing. It can be quite boring, you know, when you don't have really stuff to play and you're sort of waiting for Christmas to come around so you can enjoy that, and then the New Year comes around and that's where the season picks up. So yeah. Just sort of making sure I don't lose track of my game at the moment. That's really the key part.
So after a pretty stellar amateur career, you just completed year number 1 now as a professional. How's that first season been?
I'd say if you looked at the results, you'd probably assume I would say difficult, but I don't think it was. I just found the standard to be a little different, especially on Challenge Tour. I think obviously the life is a lot different. You know, you're taking care of yourself more. You're traveling everywhere on your own. You know, you try travel with some lads, but you know that's only if schedules align and you're traveling from the same airport or whatever. It's been a big adjustment, I think. But I sort of, you listen to a lot of guys who have turned pro and you listen to their experiences. And I sort of found at the start of this year when I went to India was my first sort of Challenge Tour, couple starts over in India. I was trying to be too perfect. I was trying to listen to lads' mistakes and not make those mistakes.
Okay. So
I was trying to do the right thing, but everything I was doing was trying to not do something.
Sure.
You'd hear lads saying, "Oh, I don't like traveling on this day, so I wouldn't travel on that day." And then when you get there, "I don't like practicing too long," so then you didn't practice too long. Or you hear guys saying, "I didn't practice enough," so then you're changing and chopping. I sort of went away from who I was and what I'd like to do. You know, as an amateur, I'd pretty I'd go with the flow for different events. I didn't have I turn up on the 2 days before, I practice 9 holes and I'd go to the range. I was just I was all over the place, sure. I think. And then it's very hard to play, how you want to play when off the course you're not really being who you want to be. But then, yeah, you just found when you play okay on the Challenge Tour, it's not good enough. These guys are so good. They're, I wouldn't say the top of Challenge Tour is any it isn't mind blowing. The top of amateur golf is still very good, but you could play okay in an East or a British Am and still make the cut. Whereas if you play okay in a Challenge Tour event, you're going to miss the cut by 4 shots. Okay. That's what I sort of found it. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. I felt like I learned a lot. I think you could come off a year and feel like you just sort of played and didn't really learn, but I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about what I like to do, what works well for me. I like having my own car when I'm traveling. I don't like sharing cars with somebody. So all these sort of nuggets that you pick up, I hope would sort of help me over the next couple of years too.
It's funny because I guess amateur golf, especially at the level that you were competing at, where you're making teams, playing internationally, representing your country, you're surrounded by a team. Even though obviously there's the individual aspect to it, there's still teammates and coaches and stuff like that. When it gets to the pro ranks, you're very much on your own.
Yeah.
Do you like like you said, like having your own car?
Yeah.
So I get the sense that probably you're okay on your own in your own company.
Yeah, I'd be probably an introvert at heart. I like being on my own, really. Not to sound like a loner, but I don't mind my own time. I sort of,
Golfers are like that though.
you
have
find
to
that
be.
a lot, yeah. And I that's a sort of an issue when you're trying to find people to travel with. It's grand if you travel with the Irish boys or a few English boys that I know, but a lot of lads, you could sort of sense when 8 o'clock comes around and everyone's like, right, I want to go home now. Dinner's over. Not the Europeans, like the Spanish or the French, like staying out late for dinner, and they like having big groups where, personally, I can't speak for anyone else. Personally, I sort of like my own time. But it can be a dangerous time though. Like you'd listen to us played with Damien McGrain a couple of times, and when I was in transition year playing the Portmarnock Link series, and he said the worst place you could be is in a hotel room on your own. Like, even if you're playing well, you might think you're better than you are, and if you're playing bad, you can go down to some dark pits in the hotel room. So, look, I was trying to, you're trying to hang around with the right people. Spent a bit of time with Ben Schmidt this year, just because same manager group, and a few of the Irish boys, trying to socialise with them and make sure you're still having social interactions. Because if you go away on your own for 2-3 weeks, you might think it's good for you, and that's what I am, but you need to get out of your comfort zone sometimes. But yeah, it can be a very lonely place. But luckily I don't mind being on my own too much. Like,
what does a year like this do for the confidence? You're saying there you've been playing grand, but still missed the cut by 4 shots. So it's not like you're playing poorly. You're just like, you just know that the bar is just that much higher.
I think if you don't have perspective and you are impatient, you can, it'd be very bad for your confidence. Like if I look at my results on Challenge Tour this year, I'm 7 of my 8 starts. If I see that and you go, geez, I'm not cut out for this. I didn't play, out of those 7 missed cuts, I might have played bad twice. So then there's 5 missed cuts that I missed the cut from playing okay. You might make 1 or 2 mistakes, you make a double or something late in the back time. If you look at that and go, Jesus, I'm not good enough for this. But it takes time to play. It takes time to match a standard sometimes. And I think, especially with social media nowadays, you see these young lads. I'm still quite young myself, but
you're still fairly young.
I know, but you look at Tom. I would be quite close to Tom. Played boys golf for him, and you see him in the news, and you see now he's got his PGA Tour card, which is fantastic. That's not common.
No,
that's not common at all. And you see French lad Martin Couver won on Challenge Tour as an amateur last year, and now he's got his DP World Tour card this year. Now these stories are more publicized and you see them more often. You sort of compare yourself to that. Like, why am I not winning? Why am I not? I'm 2-3 years older than these lads. Why is it taking more time for me? And that can hurt your confidence. You can sort of start comparing yourself to other people and what they do. Which a good quote that Dave McGrain said to me is, comparison is the thief of joy. If you're comparing yourself to everyone else who's better than you, sure, how are you going to be happy? How are you going to be content in yourself? So yeah, I think I'd be quite optimistic. I think it takes a couple of years to settle in, and I hope that happens. I'd like it to happen sooner than rather than later, but I'm not going to sort of get impatient now. I think 1 year in, a lot can happen. My first year in men's golf, I didn't play as good as I did in my last year in men's golf, so I think that could be the same pattern as a pro. I hope.
That's a good way to look at it for sure. This time of year is a funny one where, obviously there's DP World Tour Q School going on. There's Alps Q School there recently as well. And you see, as for every story that there is, Tom going on to do incredible things, and Tom's an anomaly. I think, and I say we in the Bogeymen and myself fall into the trap of why don't we see more Irish pros doing well at Q School or the likes of that? I think even the podcast a couple of weeks ago, we were just be blunt about it, that's brutal. Why have we only got one guy now in 2025 playing DP World Tour? Whereas from your side, you've got the insight to explain exactly how hard it is, really.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. a lot of podcasts yourself and other various podcasts that deal with golf, and that's a major issue. Like, where are these guys? You know, a lot of lads, like we had 4 guys play World Cup last year, and you know, obviously Matt hasn't turned pro, but me, Liam, Mark haven't made it. And you're like, right, well, if the top of amateur golf isn't making it, sure, where's the guys who do make it going to come from? I don't know. Like, it's a really weird one. I don't understand why. I don't know whether it's, you know, how you could easily say, you know, the way Irish amateur golf is set up, you know, links, hard, back tees, tucked flags, blown 40 miles
That was
an hour.
my next question.
You could say that,
Yeah.
but then a lot of lads like myself and Mark went to America.
Yeah.
So like we'd be exposed to that sort of stuff. And, you know, Liam as well didn't go to America, but he'd be playing all over the country, all over Europe, playing for Ireland. And you're not just exposed to Irish amateur golf.
Yeah.
It might have something to do with it deep down. You know, our natural shot might be a bump and run. You know, that might be something that you might see. You might be uncomfortable chipping around different grasses or whatever. But I think I would predict, or maybe not to predict, but I would imagine that a lot of guys will break through. I think once one guy breaks through, I think there'll be, it might just even be a bit confidence thing. You know, Max did amazing at Q Skill. Like, you know, he could be the catalyst for me and Mark, or me, Mark, Liam, or whoever it might be to, you know, get our challenge tour card next year. Or, you know, if he can do it, I can do it. You know, I beat him, he beat me. You know, we were as good as each other at amateur golf. You might need that just sort of realism when you turn pro. Because like I said, you can start comparing yourself to, you know, what did Shane do when he turned pro? Well, he won the Irish Open, so you know he can't win the Irish Open all the time. What did Rory do? He got his tour card from the Dunhill. You know, you see all these stories and you're like, okay, that's the way to do it. But Jesus, there's other ways to do it. And Conor Purcell this year, you've seen him. He had a tough time during COVID when he turned pro, and you know, it took him a little longer than I'd say he wanted to.
Yeah, I think he'd openly say he went about it the hard way.
Yeah, like he had to do Alps tour and he had to go the hard way, and he went through it. Like he goes down with Scott like I do, and I spent a bit of time with him this year, and he was sort of like not a role model, but he was somebody that I looked up to. I was like, he was so sure of himself. He knew exactly what he was doing. You'd see him at challenge tour events, and you know, he'd have the crack with the lads, but then he'd be like, oh, I'm doing this here, playing 9 holes, regardless of who's playing with me or who I can play with. I'm doing an hour practice and I'm gone. So that was like an eye opener to me. Like, you know, he's taking care of his business. That was how he got to the main tour. And like, yeah, as an Irish guy, you'd wish there was 10 Irish guys on tour, like there was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Like there always has been. But I think the talent pool, I think in Ireland now is too deep to not have lads on tour. But I don't know why we're not there yet.
You'll get there. Do you guys talk much? Like so you've seen obviously Max doing very well, Connor doing great. Are you guys much naturally have like a WhatsApp group or whatever where you just chat to each other, pick each other's brains a little bit?
Yeah, I think there probably wouldn't be a WhatsApp. Well, not that I'm in anyway. There wouldn't be a WhatsApp group.
WhatsApp group's probably a tough one
where
because
we're
that's
all
a lot of
sharing
people.
ideas. Yeah, I think generally how it works is you sort of play with them and you nitpick and you ask some questions. Like I played a couple of practice rounds with Connor the week he won in Galagorm, and the week after at the Irish Challenge. Yeah. And I was just trying to ask him questions. You know, how do you do that? How do you play that? And not even like golf stuff, because I play my way, he plays his way.
For sure.
If he says he plays a draw, I can't hit draws. So like, I'm not going to start hitting draws because he does, but it's more mental stuff. Like, how do you approach that scenario? Or he might be in a terrible position in a practice round and be like, right, well, what would you do there? Like course planning wise, I think that's probably the best way to pick up and learn. I think, you know, if I was to text somebody, you'd need a very specific question to ask to text somebody to answer. And golfers can be quite stubborn. You know, you might think that I know everything. Sure, I don't need to ask this guy, you know, what he knows. But I think being vulnerable and asking sort of situational questions on the course I think that's the way I learned this year. You know, even just observing Connor, not even asking questions.
Yeah.
Or Gary Hurley as well. He'd be very sure of himself. You know, he doesn't care what anyone else thinks. He'll do whatever he needs to do to get better. And just observing that and seeing that and like sort of trying to take bits of what they do and add it to my arsenal instead of trying to be someone else. I think that's the best way to learn and sort of get better as well.
Can we have a quick look back over the amateur career?
Yeah.
So obviously, if you're to summarise it, lots of trophies, lots of highlights in there. North of Ireland champion, winning the East twice, Andrews Links Trophy, Walker Cup. It's a great resume, great CV. What was your journey to get to that level? Like you started golf very young.
I was about 11 when I started, so
Okay,
I wasn't crazy
mad
young.
Yeah.
I'd say what the pattern I seen in my golf was I play well for a year, play terrible for a year, play well for a year, play terrible for a year. That was I think it was just as I was growing up, whatever stage of, you know, maturing, it took me an extra year. Like I won the Irish Boys when I was Irish under 14 when I was 14, and I thought I was the king of the world. And then the next year I was like, great, what more can I win? And then I didn't make a cut the next year. I was like, Jesus, what's going to happen? And then I put a lot of work in during transition year, then played really well the next year. And then I was like, great, I can, you know, win again. And then my final year as a boys golf, I was terrible. Before I went to America, I'd signed the papers to go to the States. And then I played awful. I think the expectation or the pressure of playing well and trying to impress the coach and impress the team and all that sort of stuff really hurt me. And then I think America is where I really came into my own. Okay. I matured a lot. As you do, you have to go take care of yourself. You do your own washing, make your own food, and all that's like the things that you take for granted at home, like putting your clothes away and all these sort of things. And you learn time management, you learn organization. And America helped me so much, and especially playing 12 months of the year. Like I had it handy, where you'd go in August. You'd come back for maybe 3 weeks at winter at Christmas and you wouldn't play. You get back out for another 4 months and you come home, play the whole summer season here. So I always felt like I had an advantage over the lads who stayed at home or were at home because they weren't playing enough golf to be competitive.
You're putting the clubs away
yeah,
for a couple of days a week or something like that because of darkness or weather.
Yeah. So I think, you know, America made me like a way better golfer. And I was sort of skeptical of the journey going over there. You hear horror stories about lads going and hating it and coming back, and lads going and hating the Bermuda grass and getting the yips and then losing their game. Like I've heard all these stories, and you're sort of, Jesus, is it the right move for me? But I think you don't ever know if it's the right move until you go over and expose yourself to all that it has to offer. But luckily it worked out for me.
It's a pretty young age though to try and balance all that, because you do hear, like even we hear all the stories of guys going over there hating it, doing less than a year, coming back home, and then just like not doing college here or whatever it is. What age were you when you went over? Because even when you played, like I heard the story of you playing the North and how the coach literally just walked past you.
Yeah,
and then stopped.
That was the British Boys. That was when I was 17. And then it sort of sounds like a lie, but it was genuinely how it worked. You see me swing a couple of times. You know, obviously a 2-iron in Ireland, and I hit the 2-iron nice a couple of times, and he offered me a scholarship in 2 weeks later. So I got lucky though. I got really lucky of having a good coach. You know, I was 18 when I went over, and when you're 18, you feel like you're an adult and you feel like you know everything, and you have 200 quid and you feel like you're loaded, and you go over there and you realize that you know nothing and you're still a kid. But I got lucky. I had a good coach who helped me understand what worked for me. You know, I think you could go over and have a coach who will make you do what he thinks or what he knows.
So build you in his image type of thing.
Yeah, and like that's the difference, I think, between a good coach and then like a person manager. Like my coach was really good at managing me. You know, when I'd get too cocky, he'd bring me down to earth. But then when I needed a lift, he'd give me a pat on the back and tell me I'm great and whatever. He knew what I needed instead of this old hard coach saying you're gonna hit fades, you're gonna do that, you're gonna do what I think. And then that's where I think a lot of lads who go over run into troubles where it's a sort of personality clash.
Yeah.
Like I was obviously privileged to go there, but it can be hard sometimes, like 6 a.m. workouts, getting up at 5:30, like you don't want to do that. But if the coach works with you, you don't mind going. And like if the coach going to workouts at 6 o'clock, he's putting in the effort. But then you hear lads like the coach won't turn up to workouts and the coach won't turn up to qualifying or whatever. And I think I got lucky. I got lucky that I had a good coach who helped me. And then when he left, I got another coach, Mark Leon, who was just the best guy. Like he was almost like my best friend for a couple of years. He was Canadian, as friendly as they are. So yeah, I just got very lucky with coaches that I didn't feel like I was being pressured into things or I was being forced into his ideal person, which was great.
Where did you go to coach?
Florida Atlantic University.
Okay.
So like at the time when I had first joined, like I wasn't amazing as a boy golfer. I got quite lucky that I got the college I got. Indy won, which is that was the aim.
Yeah, wow.
You're playing against good fields and good schedules, but we were like 160th when I joined, and we got another guy, Max Sturza from Switzerland, at the same time, and an English guy, Enrique de Miuga. And when we came in, like the team just got a lot better. We went from I think 160 to 70 in like 2 years.
Wow.
With the two seniors that were still there, I think they were just missing. They had 2 good guys, and they were just missing three good guys that could also back up
Fill the panel. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
So yeah, I was lucky. I sort of caught the university on the up. Like they hired a new coach from Stanford, and it just sort of started trending upwards, which is great.
You're saying that like he was a good man manager, but weren't you hitting draws at the time? And yeah, he did kind of. I listened to your interview with Gary about that, and the way you explained it was fascinating. It wasn't as much. He was like, "I want you to hit fades. You need to hit fades." Yeah. The way he explained it to you was very interesting. Yeah,
like my miss, even still nowadays, is a high right, and like
mine too.
Yeah, look, and it is for a lot of guys, and it's manageable now that I hit fades. Like it's a sort of high spinning one where back when I was hitting draws, I played I had no golf knowledge. I thought I was playing the right thing. I had a really low spin ball, had a low spin driver, and it was hard to draw it, but I was trying to draw it. So I would just hit these like power blocks and like would destroy my rounds sometimes. I would be really bad for my wedges. I'd get inside and stuck. When my time was great, it worked great, but a lot of the times it just, it would be very detrimental to me. So he, instead of saying hit fades because it's better, he made comparisons to different players. Okay, he made this change and he got a lot better. Like Justin Johnson, he did this with his wedges. I think if you had that release pattern or whatever, working with my coach Donald, we sort of came up with a plan. What it was really, this is sort of contradictory to what I said, but he made me go in a range and he said, you're going to hit 100 slices. He was like, that's what you're going to do for the day. He just put me aside. He was like, right, you're going to hit 100 slices. He's like, I want to see every divot left of that. He's like, I don't care what you do. And then that was like 2 weeks before I came back. And then after that, I won like the North and all that. So I sort of put it back to him that he probably got fed up with me saying, no, I know what I'm doing. And then he's like, no, you're going to do what I say for 2 days, and it worked off. But yeah, I don't think if he had told me to do that, I don't think I would have changed how I sort of saw. Like now I see a ball starting left and coming right, where I would never ever see that before.
Okay.
Ever.
Do you keep in touch with your coach much now, even just on a personal level?
Yeah, I wouldn't keep in touch with him much. He caddies for, I think he's caddying for Justin Suh. He left after 2 years. He went caddying for Brandon Wu. Now he's caddying for Justin Suh, so he'd be busy as well. I'd keep up with the other coach, Mark Leon, and he's caddying. He's the head coach at Penn State, or Penn State. Yeah.
Wow.
So we have a few group chats with a few different players on the team, and we'd sort of throw in a few funny jokes every time. But I think when we're so far away and so on different time zones, it's hard to have a proper conversation. But absolutely nothing but good memories with them.
So then when you come back and you said talked about coming back winning the North, the confidence then must be sky high as to like what the potential could be here. Obviously, before that, you're like, okay, I know I'm pretty confident I could do this. I can compete at this level. But then to get the North under your belts, you must go, all right, like everything's going the right way here. We've made these changes in terms of the shot shape, but we've also just got experience from playing it over in America. We're now bringing that back here. So it's not like there's Irish golf, which is like links and XYZ, and then American golf is the completely different ABC. You've brought it from one to the other, and your golf game stood up and you got the win. You must be very, very confident at that point.
Yeah, and then that brings it back to growing up. After that, I played terrible. No, I had a good summer. I did well in the South the week after, and I think did well in homes. Well, got my first Irish cap, but then I went back to America, and I was playing really good at home and qualifying, and then I'd go to events and I'd come 30th and 20th, and I'm like thinking that, you know, one of the best in Ireland at the time in my own head, and then go back to America realizing that Ireland's a very small place and you can get very big headed here very fast. And then you go to America and you're getting your arse handed to you by guys you don't even know their name when they're coming in and they're beating you by 10 shots, and you go, Jesus, what's going on? So that sort of it made me think that made me realize that, you know, Ireland is very, very small compared to the world stage. And it taught me not to get too far ahead of myself. You know, fantastic, I won the North, but, you know, that means nothing in comparison. Like now when you turn a pro, no one really matters. No one really cares what you did as an amateur to a certain extent. Like after that, for 6 months, I struggled playing competitively. I struggled getting the most out of my game until I came back again to Ireland. I felt like I was on a repeat where I'd play bad in America, I'd come back in Ireland, I'd play great, and go back to America, play bad. And I really tried to get out of that cycle, but I didn't mind coming back and playing well though.
Yeah, especially when you come back and you win in the East, obviously 2 years in a row. But that's it. That's interesting. That's fascinating. Because that's purely all psychological, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah. Because like I would disagree and say no, but because I was playing great at home, like I was shooting 7 under for, you know, 7 under for qualifying and qualify, and then I'd go shoot level par in the tournament, and I'm like, the courses aren't 7 shots harder. Like I was so comfortable at home that I couldn't really get comfortable playing away in the States. And then I'd come home here and I'd be really comfortable playing at home. So I realized that when I'm comfortable and when I'm just like freewheeling it, I play my best golf.
Yeah.
So I was putting too much pressure on myself at events, trying to win, trying to play against, you know, you might hear of a name that you haven't played against, and all of a sudden you're paired with them and you're like, Jesus, how good am I compared to him? And then you're thinking too much. So it's purely psychological. I think whenever I play bad, it's only psychological.
So how do you keep yourself comfortable?
Jesus, that's $1 million question. I'd love to know. I've spoken with my coach about that for ages. I think the best way for me to be comfortable is to be sure of who I am as a golfer. You know, sticking to my values and like how I play golf, you know, whether that be I'm aggressive off the tee, or I'm resilient. I'm able to take good punches and still carry on and still commit to the next shot. I think, look, it's easy to sit here and tell you exactly what makes me comfortable, but then you go to India and you're like, you can't think of anything that makes you comfortable. All you feel is very uncomfortable. All I know is once I get near the sea or I'm on links, everything goes out of my head and I just play well. Like I'd love that I'd love if the Challenge Tour just purely played on the coast. It'd be great. I'd have a few wins by now, but it's just trying to get that level of comfort to like parkland golf courses where, you know, for whatever reason, even though like links golf, you could lose golf ball in the fescue. I just feel comfortable on those tees where you go into a parkland course with trees, you won't lose a golf ball, and I'd feel a little bit more uncomfortable. I don't know what it is. Like, it's purely in my head. I'd love for somebody to tell me what it is, so I don't have to keep guessing. Every couple of months it changes what makes me comfortable and what the issue is. But I think playing more. I think just, I'm saying comfortable a lot, but being uncomfortable or being comfortable in the uncomfortable state is, getting last minute flights to places I don't want to go, staying in places I don't want to stay in, going to places I don't want to go, doing all that stuff. I think then when you get into a tee box, you're like, oh, this makes me uncomfortable. For sure, I've traveled all the way across the world to India, meeting terrible food. That's uncomfortable. Where standing on a tee box, hitting a white golf ball to a bit of land, that shouldn't really scare you as much, but somehow it does.
You spoke about how you like the links courses, particularly in and around that East Coast, the East stretch. So when you won the East of Ireland first, was it after you came second twice or something? You were
No,
close to it.
I only played the East 4 times and I had 2 miscuts and 2 wins.
2 miscuts and 2 wins. Wow.
Yeah. Well, there was a gap there when I played 2 as a boy, and then it wasn't on for 2 years during COVID, I think, and then came back and won 2 of them.
When you went for the first time, obviously you're a local fan favorite, like you grew up in that area. Was that? I imagine that was the one that you really wanted to win.
Yeah, and I said it to my mom. I don't know when it was. I had I said it to her. I was like, "That's the one I want to win," and I set my heart on it. I had never practiced or trained. I don't even think it's healthy to do that. I literally stood on the range of Baltray and I envisioned every single hole. Like, in my head, I'd already won it. But then after the first 2 rounds, I made the cup, I won, and I was like, Jesus, I'm nowhere near where I want to be. But yeah, that's the one that, that's still the best moment in my amateur career, I think.
Really?
To my heart, yeah, there's other events that happen, but because I wanted it so much, it meant the world to me. I mean, I had my family and friends there, and it just felt way more satisfying because it was everything I wanted, and then I had it. Yeah, everything else was, my amateur career was more of a bonus. Like, that was what I set my heart on since I was a kid. I caddied in the event for Keane Garrity, and I'd grown up and watching it, and then once I was playing in it, that was the one I really wanted to lift. So it was nice to do it.
Was it as nice as you envisioned?
It was nicer the second time. The first time was you don't envision being 10 shots back after 2 rounds to play. I was out first on the Monday, and I had no crowd until probably the last 6-7 holes because I wasn't even in the tournament. But it was great. It was probably the first time was more like elation and joy. I was like, this is fantastic. But then the second time, I was almost expected to win. Like, if I didn't win, it was like, you let not everyone down, I was sort of let myself down. The first win was great, but then the second win, I put so much pressure on myself that I had to win, and then that was more relief, and I enjoyed that one probably a little bit more. But I couldn't separate both of them. They're both equally special to me.
Why do you think you put that pressure on yourself?
I was just a better golfer. I think I had I don't know. I don't know what it was. I felt like I was a favourite in the bookies. I hate people saying what I am in the bookies as well. Only amateur golf, but my mom would be like, "Oh, I put tenner on you," and I'm like, "Jesus Christ!" I hate this. And your family saying how much money they put on you, and you're almost feeling the pressure, and that shouldn't come into it. But I just felt like I was in control of the tournament until the back 9 of the last day. And I was like, "This is great," until I lost the ball on 12 and the sort of sirens in my head went, don't let it slip. But I think in the run up to it, I just felt like it was being talked about so much that I let it get to my head. I listened to all the noise around it. But in comparison, it's a small event in comparison to the whole world. But to me, it means everything.
Much, yeah.
So I think I just wanted it so much that that pressure built, and I let everything get to my head. But luckily, it paid off.
Was it the same week then you won the East for the second time that you then went off to St Andrews Links and win that trophy as well?
Yeah,
some week.
That was I didn't know what to do with myself. I left the day after. I couldn't even celebrate how I wanted. I had to leave the next morning at like 7 to get the boat from Belfast. I went over. I think that was only my third time playing an event in England, really. Or maybe played a few boys golf, but I'd played 2 British Ams, and then that was my next one. So I didn't know what to do. I was driving on my own, staying on my own.
That's what you like, though. You're comfortable.
That's what I mean. It makes you comfortable doing that. So I was all right. I was eating Nando's by myself every day until people started coming over. But yeah, I was.
So you were eating Nando's on your own, right?
Oh, absolutely. I eat Nando's all the time on my own.
Nando's is great.
Yeah, fair. But like when you're, I ate with the Irish boys twice. But sure, like when you're playing a practice round, the few Irish lads were playing in the Walker Cup panel, so they were finishing in certain different times. So you ended up just being. I was on my own in a hotel in Dundee, and the Nando's was right outside. So it was. I didn't mind being on my own there.
Yeah.
But that week was just. Everything was great. It was probably the best golf I played in my life. Like everything was where I needed to be. Drove it great. My irons solid enough. Put it lovely. And then once I got into that, I don't know how many shots I was back into that final day. It was the same as the East. It was 1 round, 2 rounds, cut 36, and then played at Rob in the final day. So I was comfortable doing that. I didn't feel like I was playing with somebody I didn't know. We were chatting the whole way around, and yeah, the putts just didn't stop missing. So I was happy.
To win in St Andrews now is, I mean, anyone's dream come true. Like also for it to be your like third or fourth event over in the UK to be that trophy and to win that's unheard of.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I felt like my mum and dad were there, which was great. They had travelled over I think they were there for the 3 days. But my mum was bad knees and feet, so she couldn't walk the first 2 days, and she walked. I think she came out for the back 9 the last day. Walked over to Swilcan Bridge with them, and then I felt like I had it wrapped up, but I didn't know what was going on behind me. I didn't know if the guy had made a couple of birdies, so I was sort of trying to enjoy it and soak it in, but
Can you enjoy that?
You can stand there for 10 minutes, and I felt like you couldn't be there long enough. I think I felt like the last hole went by in 2 minutes from the tee to the green. It was just surreal. Like, sure, once I topped in, my dad was in floods of tears, as he always is, and I was trying to give out to him. I was like, it's not over yet. Like, I can't like enjoy it yet until I knew it was fully over. But in my head, I was like, surely this is it. Like, and I'd seen John Murphy win it, and I was like, that is incredible. I'd seen him hold like the long putt in the playoff, and I was like, that is outrageous. Like, that is the pinnacle of amateur golf, really. You have the British Am and US Am and all that, but they don't play at St Andrews. Like, just the venue and the situation you're in is so cool. And then when I was standing there on the green, I couldn't believe it really until probably a couple of days after. But yeah, no, it was a very cool week.
And then, like, you went on then, and was a season later or a couple of seasons later you go on and play Walker Cup? Because it wasn't that year.
It was that year. It was
okay.
Actually, and obviously that obviously meant that probably had my space secured for Walker Cup too. The captains were out there watching, and that also was added to it as well. That made it more special too, I think.
Because then the Walker Cup back in St Andrews.
Yeah.
So here you must go back into that Walker Cup. Obviously not the final results of the team that you wanted, but you must have gone into that week being like, I've literally just won here only a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I felt like I'd only been back. I was only there last week. But I didn't feel like I had a massive advantage over, especially the lads we were playing with.
Yeah, I mean, that US team are pretty ridiculous.
Yeah,
to be fair.
Their worst guy was like 16th in the world, and I was like, our best guy was 13th in the world. And, probably should have won it, really, I think. But the whole week was incredible. I think we were treated like royalty. We had anything we needed or wanted, it was sort of there for us. I felt like we were a pro for a week, which was quite cool, I think. But St Andrews was incredible. I think when you're playing the matches, the sort of you don't really, the first tee is cool because you're around the clubhouse, but then you go out on the course and you're like, it's a normal match and the crowds are great, but then you come to 16, 17, 8, like you're walking into this wall of history, which is probably the thing you can't really describe, but the feeling you get when you walk into that sort of amphitheater of the hotel and all the buildings that are right and around to the clubhouse. It's a feeling you can't really describe. And when you're playing in the biggest amateur event possible and you're playing with the best amateurs and there's thousands of people there, and it was, probably a feeling that you could never really replicate, even if it was the Open. I think just, you work so hard to be there as an amateur, and once you're standing there, you're like, this is just too cool to believe it. But yeah, St Andrews was probably the best ever venue for a World Cup, and I was delighted to be a part of it.
Would you be much of a golf history fan, or would you be aware of that, or is it just a case of everyone knows St Andrews, it's the home of golf?
Yeah, to a certain extent I wouldn't know. You go down to Sam Snead, I wouldn't know all that sort of stuff, but I probably know from like 95, ever since Tiger started playing, I'd know pretty much a lot of stuff from then. But yeah, history, like you don't need to know history to know St Andrews is incredible. I think even my uncle, who never doesn't play golf, doesn't know golf, just knows me. He went over and, he had tears in his eyes when I was in the first tee, because like no matter what you do, no matter what like area of life you're in, if you go to St Andrews, it's special. I don't know what it is. Like lads, you don't even know about Tiger winning there, or the history that it has. It just has a sort of aura that sort of has an impact on anyone who goes.
Yeah. Taking away the East, what's the career highlight? The amateur career highlight?
We would have to be St Andrews. I think it meant a lot for me because it probably secured my spot in the World Cup, which was a big goal of mine, probably a goal that I thought was unreachable for years. And, being the second biggest event in Europe at the time, it was, I just felt like everything was falling into place for me. That year was great, and that got me into the Open and World Cup and Banalec Trophy and Homes and Europeans and World Team Championship. Like it, everything sort of fell into place that year, and I still feel very lucky to have had those things go well for me, because I felt like anything I did for that year, sort of led to gold, and I was just walking cloud nine for the whole year. And then I got a smack in the face once I turned pro this year. It was a little bit different, but yeah, I think winning there was probably the highlight, I think.
You've got your college degree behind you as well. What would you be doing if you didn't turn pro?
God,
have you thought about that? Or was the focus always on turning pro and it doesn't really matter what else I do?
I don't think the focus is really turning pro. I think that was obviously an ambition, a goal, but I just kept playing golf. I always felt like I think I know too much about golf to do anything else. Like even if being a pro doesn't work out or didn't work out, I'd have to do something in golf. Like, yeah, I've got a degree, but I don't know how. I don't know if you asked me a few questions about my degree, I don't know if I'll be able to answer them off the top of my head. So,
what did you study?
International business. So I couldn't be a businessman. Like I have a degree there to say I could be, but Jesus, I'm not. I wouldn't be a skill geek. I'm not very smart in skill. Just because I wasn't interested in it. But I would love to do something in probably club fitting or club manufacturing. Jeez, I know too much about equipment in golf to say I do finance or accounting. I'd have to learn so much to do that job, where I've learned golf for 12 years. I'd be a fool to say I'd do something outside of golf.
Yeah.
Or like a golf manager or something. Fair. I don't know. Yeah. It sounds boring, but I'd have to do something.
It would be in golf though.
Yeah, no, it would be.
Fair. Do you tinker much then? Like it sounds like you do kind of fiddle with your clubs a little bit then.
Yeah, to the most part, yeah. I think if I find something that works, it's great. I don't touch it, but like I love looking at different grinds and wedges and different lofts and different finishes or shafts, and I just changed shafts, my irons there. Now that was performance wise, it helped me reduce the ball flight and bring spin down. But no, like once I found a nice driver, keep that same shaft for the last couple of years. I found a nice 3-wood last year, kept that in the bag, same 2-iron. I've had the same putter in and out for the last 11 years.
Okay, wow.
Scotty Cameron's, I've had that in the bag for years. So I'd probably maybe change around grinds of wedges, but like I think when it comes to like that stuff helps me do my job.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a fan of tinkering everything every week. Like you hear this page called, I think it's SMS on Tour. They're great because they post videos and pictures of what the lads are using, and he'd be like 8 changes for this guy and 10 changes for that guy. I don't know how they would be able to do it. I couldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, my brain would melt if it was like, I could completely different bounce and grind on my wedges every week or every couple of months. I'd be like, no, I
don't think. Sure, what consistency you have, like maybe changing a grind for a Lynx or Bermuda or whatever it is. But I think if you're changing and chopping and changing the whole time, how do you know? I don't know. Maybe they've got guys who can data and stats. They can tell them what to do every week, and this will work this week, and they put it in the bag and they trust it. But I think
it goes back to the comfort thing and confidence.
Yeah.
If someone turns around and goes, "This will help you," but you look down on it and you go, "Oof."
Yeah.
No, if you're not comfortable with it, you're not
like that. I've had that a lot where like 3-woods or certain heads of drivers, you'd be like, you might get a bigger head. I'll just help you at it straighter, and you're hitting it straighter, but you hate the look of it, and you're like, I can't use it. But yeah, to answer your question, I'd be sort of skeptical. I'd always ask questions before I tinker, but I wouldn't be a massive one now.
So we're pretty much at the end of this season. So what do the next few weeks look like, and then what does 2025 look like for you after that?
2025 is just, I'll probably go away to warm weather, I'd say, for Portugal. Get ready for the season ahead. Enjoy Christmas first. Spend time with family. I'm probably spending too much time with them now because I have nothing else to do. But yeah, really just get ready for next year, I think.
Have you status anywhere?
I don't have full status anywhere. I'll still have to do 8 Challenge Tour events, invites there, which will be huge. And then I'll play as mix of like Alps or Clutch, whatever sort of fits into the schedule. I find that taking big gaps in between the events, like I'd be one to play my way into form. I think if I play a 3-week stretch, the 3rd week is always my best week.
Sure.
Like it has been for 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
So I know that, and like it's hard to get 3 in Challenge Tour invites in a row.
Yeah.
So that means that if I might play 2 Alps Tour events in a row and then fly from Italy to Czech Republic for a Challenge Tour event, and that's the best way to do it. Might cost a lot of money, but that's the best way for you to play at your highest level, then you've got to do it, I think. That ties into this year, like knowing what helps me play well. Like I played 2 weeks in a row in Czech Republic and in France, played lovely in France, and then I had a gap for like 6 weeks. Now I played like an Alps Tour event or the Open Qualifier then too, but then I came back to the Northern Irish Challenge and I was just so rusty, like mentally, and making little silly mistakes and hitting wrong clubs off tees and bringing up bunkers into play where I didn't have to. Where I think if I just play as much as I can next year, wherever that is, wherever somewhere has an event, I'll try to play that too. Regardless of the prize fund, I think if it helps me play best on the Challenge Tour, then I'll just go wherever I can. So yeah, it'll be a busy year next year. I'd say I'll have a lot of last minute stuff to go to, and that's a hard part of golf. You might be with the girlfriend on the Monday, and then you get a call saying, "Are you going to go to Portugal or Spain or whatever?" And you got to pack your bags and go straight away, and might be underprepared for the event. You might not see the golf course, but that's all part of the pro life, which is, it's in the job description, so you sort of have to get on with it, don't you?
You're also heading off to the Live qualifying series, so you're part of a good crew this year of Irish guys going over. I know for certain yourself, Max Kennedy, Ryan Griffin, and Matt McLean are there. That's a good turnout.
Yeah, I think I don't know what it is. I think didn't go last year. I felt like I wanted to see how it was first. I didn't want to go and
That's fair.
be in a camp where I was sort of, I didn't want to get a bad name for myself going, and then if it didn't turn out. But I think the way the live is going and the way the deal might happen with the PJ Tour, whatever deal that is, I don't know what's going to happen. I just felt like I had to, as my golf is a business, I have to give my business the best chance to succeed.
For sure.
Give myself the best opportunity to go wherever that might be. And because I don't have full status next year, I don't think I'm in a position to say no to an opportunity like that. I think for me, I was going to go to the Asian Tour Q School. I'd already signed up.
I was going to ask you about that as a route as well.
Yeah, I was sort of annoyed at Liv announced it so late because I'd already paid the entry fee. I'd paid for flights. I'd got accommodation. I'd already everything booked in Bangkok. And then this was announced, and I think I was paid like 1,000 quid in fees to withdraw from the event and get the flights back. So that was like a kick in the teeth. But, you know, it was cheaper, and, you know, there's more at stake at the live event, because for me anyway, the one live spot is absolutely great, but it's a small chance. But the 2 to 10 spot for the international series is
that's massive.
That's pretty much what I'm going for, because if I was going to go to the Asian Tour Q School, I might get like a decent status on the Asian Tour, but if I can get status on the international series, which is like the elevated events on Asian Tour, sure, why wouldn't I? And I think my manager said it to me. He was like, look, if you get, let's say you qualify for Asian Tour and you get the 35th card, you'll have a very bad status on Asian Tour, which means that would mean then I might be getting into every event last minute if I get in. So I'd be on call while I'm home in Dublin.
Yeah, you'd nearly have to relocate over there.
I'd have to live in Bangkok for a year, and I'd do anything to be a professional golfer, but I don't know if I'd live in Bangkok waiting to get into events and hoping to get into a last minute events. Could be a nice life doing that, but I felt like having an alternative at the Saudi Arabia, I just felt like it was a better option for this year.
For sure. I think that's a really good way to look at it, for sure. You know, John Catlin, who's obviously done very well on Live now, where he's like one of the reserve players. He did exactly that. He moved from California over to Thailand, played Asian Tour for a couple of years, then got this DP World Tour card, did that, and now he's back playing Asia and Live. Yeah, which is, it just shows that there's so many different roads to get to where you want to go to. Yeah, like I wouldn't have even thought about Asian Tour Q School till maybe August. You're sort of trying to think, how would that work? Like, if I got a card, would I have to move over? And then it'd be the same thing as getting your DP World Tour card. Like, you might get your 20th card, but you wouldn't play half the events on the DP World Tour. Like last year, most lads played full Challenge Tour card and got into events at like last minute or every couple of weeks. And I was like, that's all well and good if you're at a Challenge Tour event in Czech Republic and you get a call on a Tuesday, oh, go to France. But sure, if I'm in Dublin and I got to go to Malaysia or Thailand, I'd be like, Jesus, how do I get there in a day and not prepare? But that sort of opened up a can of worms of what I would do then. And I just felt like, you know, you could go to the international series and play well in the international series and get into, you know, you can play well on that side, and if you do well there's opportunities to get into the Open, you know, through Asian Tour stuff. You get into, like, I was playing with a guy at the Dunhill this year who qualified through the Order of Merit on the Asian Tour, just get into DP World Tour events. And I'm like, well, there's so many more ways that I'm not exposed to yet that I got to learn. But yeah, like I said, I've got to give myself the best chance to succeed. If that means going to Saudi, then I'm prepared to do it. Yeah, for sure. Listen, thank you very much for the chat. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Best of luck now in Saudi, and then with 2025, we'll be following your journey. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Cheers. Thanks very much.
On the tee, Jack Nicklaus.
This is the minute that millions around the world have waited for.
We will allow you to enjoy all of this. They are dancing in the pubs of Dublin. Harrington with an ace.
And we have a shining star at sunset. Rory continues his run to greatness. The return to glory.